Welcome to Regarding Relationships, the podcast where we dive into all things relationships. The ones we choose, the ones we're born into, and the messy ones we're still figuring out. I'm your host, Haley, a licensed therapist, author, and soon-to-be doctor of social work. Yep, I'm almost there. I've spent years working with individuals, couples, and families, and I've seen firsthand what brings us closer and what pushes us apart. Together, we'll explore the mess and magic of human connection. So, let's get into it. Hey everyone, I'm so glad you're here. I'm your host, Haley, and thanks for making me part of your day. Welcome to It Takes Two to Gaslight. Before we dive in, just a quick note. This space is minimal on purpose. Just simple visuals and the sound of my voice. It's designed this way to help you slow down and settle your nervous system. So whenever you're ready, let's begin. What is gaslighting? Well, gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone makes you doubt your own memory, perception, perhaps your very own sanity. It often sounds like, that never happened, you're too sensitive, or you're imagining things. The goal is to confuse you until you start second guessing your own reality and relying more and more on their version of reality. But gaslighting isn't about who's right and wrong. It's about who's in control. And let's talk a little bit more about what it looks like, because it can take many forms. It can look like denying the facts, things you know happened, things you know were said. It can look like twisting your words or shifting the blame back onto you. It can look like projecting the feelings that they are harboring or the behaviors that they are exhibiting onto you. Can look like minimizing your feelings because ultimately the gaslighter aims to rewrite history to fit their narrative. And over time, you may start to feel anxious, unsure of yourself, or you may find yourself constantly apologizing just to keep the peace. That's because the gaslighter wants to maintain control. So they never question their memory or version of events. They deny and deflect, but they rarely reflect. They will minimize what you feel and shift the blame onto you, and eventually you just give in. So who gaslights and why? Well, not all gaslighters look the same, but here are some patterns. Narcissists and controlling partners. They gaslight to maintain dominance, because if you doubt yourself, they stay in control. Manipulative personalities gaslight because this is like a tactic for them. It's a way of avoiding accountability. It's a way of hiding their own behavior. Parents and authority figures may gaslight, and they use this to enforce obedience or maybe even preserve an image. And this is sad because it comes at the cost of a child's reality. Friends, coworkers, even institutions can gaslight. It's not limited to romantic partners. It shows up anywhere someone benefits from making you question yourself. And slowly, over time, gaslighters diminish your self-esteem and your self-trust. Why? Because again, if you believe them over yourself, you give them power. So who do they target? Well, anyone can be gaslit, but some people are more vulnerable. Empaths and helpers care deeply and may excuse harmful behavior. People with anxious attachment, they fear abandonment and they may work harder to prove themselves. Those with low self-worth, they're more likely to believe maybe it's my fault. And those with trauma histories, especially if they grew up around inconsistency, criticism, or denial. Gaslighters target people who will question themselves before they ever question the gaslighter. So here are some signs you can look for to recognize gaslighting. I mean, it's okay to feel uncertain at times, but if you find yourself doing the following, perhaps you're being gaslit. If you find yourself apologizing frequently, even when you haven't done anything wrong. If you find yourself questioning your own memory, perception, or even your sense of self, especially your sense of self. If you find yourself feeling confused or uncertain about events or conversations, if you're experiencing a sense of isolation, feeling cut off from friends, family, or support systems, if you find yourself struggling to make decisions without seeking approval or reassurance from others, these feelings may be signs that someone is trying to manipulate your reality. Okay, so you might be wondering, well, if gaslighting takes two, how do I participate? Well, that is the hardest truth because no one can gaslight you without your participation. And you participate when you rush to explain yourself, when you defend yourself endlessly, when you over-justify your truth. In doing these things, you're handing over your power and trying to convince the gaslighter to believe you. So let's talk about how you can break free. You can't control whether someone gaslights, but you can control whether you engage in it. So the first thing you want to do is pause before responding. Not every accusation deserves a defense. You can remind yourself, I know my truth. I know my character. You can stop debating with someone committed to misunderstanding you. In fact, you can limit or cut off contact if the behavior continues. And ultimately, you can strengthen your sense of self through therapy, journaling, or supportive relationships. The less you need their approval, the less their words have power. So protecting yourself, think of it this way. Their words only land if you open the door. So you want to protect yourself by trusting your memory, your feelings, your intuition. You want to surround yourself with people who validate your reality. You want to set clear boundaries, saying things like, I'm not going to argue about what I know is true, or we may have to agree to disagree. Walking away when conversations become circular is key, because in some situations, it may even escalate. When a gaslighter senses they're losing control over you, they may escalate their words or behavior to undermine your sudden confidence. Remember, they prefer that you remain uncertain and isolated. At the end of the day, freedom does not come from convincing the gaslighter. It comes from choosing not to play the game. I now invite you to participate in a reflection exercise. So if this feels right for you, take a few quiet moments today and ask yourself, where have I felt pressured to defend myself over and over? What would it look like if I were to stop explaining? How can I remind myself daily that my truth, my identity is valid and it's not up for debate? So even if no one else agrees, my truth and my identity is still valid. Just notice what comes up for you when you reflect on these questions, because that awareness alone is a first step toward freedom. In closing, gaslighting is powerful, but it's not all powerful. It relies on your participation. So when you stop seeking the gaslighter's approval, you stop feeding the dynamic. You can stand tall in your truth. You can protect your peace. You can break free. Because again, your worth is not up for debate. It was never theirs to define. Thank you so much for listening today. If something from this episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment or share a question about a relationship that's on your mind. Big or small, your questions can spark conversations we all can learn from. And if you'd like to keep exploring these topics with me, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. I'm grateful you're here. I'll see you next time. And until then, stay curious, stay kind, and stay connected.